Welcome to Heart of the Matter, the programme which is committed to telling you the truth about who must do what and why if the Palestine problem, the cancer at the heart of international affairs, is to be cured before it consumes us all. My guest tonight is a Palestinian Arab. On one occasion, when he was stopped at a checkpoint and was asked if he was carrying a weapon, he answered yes. He was then ordered by tense Israeli soldiers to move to a safe distance and take the weapon out of the suitcase. With Israeli guns trained on him, he slowly removed a Bible. "This is the only weapon I have ever carried," he said, "and it's the only weapon I need." He was and is Riah Abu El Assad, who, on the 6th of January 1998, was consecrated to serve a 9-year term as the Anglican Bishop of Jerusalem, a diocese which includes Syria, Lebanon and Jordan, as well as Israel-Palestine. Bishop Riah was born in Nazareth. He was 12 when the Zionist state of Israel came into being. At the time, he was on holiday in Lebanon with his family. Overnight, the family became refugees, and it took his father 10 years to obtain permission for the family to return to their home in Nazareth. Most of the other 800,000 Palestinians who were dispossessed of their land and rights were not so fortunate. Bishop Riah is a man who speaks his mind, and that made him an enemy so far as Israel's military, political and security establishments were and are concerned. Even as the Bishop of Jerusalem, he was subjected to travel bans and humiliation at checkpoints. I must start with what I think is the most obvious question. Do you think it's appropriate today to describe Israel-Palestine as the Holy Land?
I no more speak of it as the Holy Land unless I mean it's a land with many holes. It has become the most unholy land as a result of the ongoing conflict in that part of the world, where people are treated like even worse than animals, especially those who are humiliated at different checkpoints, who are strangled in places like Gaza, children starving.
Gaza is now more or less a prison camp, is it not?
Oh, it is. Quite. Of 1.5 million people. 70% unemployed. I mean, what do you expect?
Let's come on to the wider picture in a minute. I also want to ask you a question about God.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that, according to the Bible, he promised the land of one people to another people?
Well, I have all sorts of questions about God being viewed as a real estate agent. So this idea of God promising a piece of land to a certain people, it was promised to Abraham in the first place. And where do we read of Abraham being a Jew or an Israelite? Never in the Bible. He's never referred to as a Jew. Judaism came with Moses. And even Judaism, in my understanding, came from Jethro, who was a Midianite, an Arab, who was the father-in-law of Moses.
So I have to ask, is that what God wanted?
No, I don't think God wanted this. I mean, even whatever promises God made to anybody, those were conditional. If they would keep the covenant, we will do this. If you keep the covenant, I will do this for you. But when you don't keep the covenant, then you will lose.
Now, this is the same argument that Notorah Carter used. They are the ultra-Orthodox religious Jews who have always been opposed to Zionism. And they make the simple statement, yes, we do believe that God promised the land, but it was conditional. It's because we broke the promise.
It's not ours.
It's not ours.
It's not ours.
Yeah. That's your position too?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, and more than that, even if this was given to a certain community, namely the Jewish community, after all, Judaism was never a national identity. It was a religious identity. Who says that only the present Jews are Jews? What about those Christians who converted to Christianity in the first century? Those who were at the first Pentecost in 33 AD. We are told that they were Arabs. The Arabs, are named as the tail end of that list of 17 nationalities that were celebrating Pentecost in Jerusalem. So there were Arabs there. Ethnically speaking, they were Arabs. Religiously speaking, they were members of a new faith that came to Arabia, the Jewish faith. There was nothing called Christianity. There was nothing called Islam before Christ. Was there? Certainly not. So those Arabs who were Jewish by faith and who converted to Christ and became Christians, do they inherit the promises?
Now, in your time as bishop, I believe the Israeli authorities, security and other, tried to limit your influence. How did they do it, and why did they do it?
Well, in the first place, I mean, the Anglican Diocese of Jerusalem is the most difficult of Anglican dioceses in the world because of the ongoing conflict. I mean, you had to cross all sorts of boundaries to reach your destination. One time, for example, I was on my way to Jordan, and I was stopped right at the gate, way from the passport control. And for the first time, they said, we have some questions to ask of you. I said, because I'm a Palestinian, you stopped me. You did not stop the others.
But what was the gameplay?
The gameplay
humiliate you? Make life difficult?
Well, to humiliate, to harass sometimes.
This is not just any old Joe. This is the Bishop of Jerusalem.
Even then, I've been denied flying one time. I've been banned from travel. Years ago, they accused me of being a threat to the security of the state of Israel. I said, this little man, a threat to the security of a country which is almost a superpower in the Middle East.
Bishop, what do they think they have to gain from humiliating even people like you?
I don't know. They want you to hush.
To silence?
Yeah, to silence. That's the cause behind the travel ban which I served, and I served the longest travel ban in the history of Israel.
I think I once heard a story that there was even a threat to kill you, even as you were about to be enthroned as the bishop. Is that true?
That's true. Right after Lambeth 98, the first day of Lambeth, I walked out as a result of a play by a group from Oxford that spoke of the need to unify Judea and Samaria. And it was the British Embassy that told me that they received a death threat on my life. So I turned to the Israeli police and the Ministry for Religious Affairs, and I failed to get any protection from them. We had to hire Palestinians to come and protect me and to search people coming into the cathedral on my first day as the diocesan.
Those who framed the partition plan proposal were perfectly aware that Jerusalem had so much potential to be the cause of unending conflict that it was excluded from the partition plan. Now, question. If David Ben-Gurion, Israel's founding father, had not sought to grab Jerusalem in defiance of the will of the international community, do you think it could have been excluded from the conflict zone?
The partition plan, in my opinion, was the first separation wall that was built between the communities that lived in Palestine in pre-48 days. Who gives whose land remains the question. Who gave the United Nations Commission, or whoever, to partition
It had no
the
right.
land?
It had no right.
They had no right, in my opinion. But having partitioned it and kept Jerusalem, wanted it to become an international city.
Under UN justice.
Under UN, it would have saved the two parties now from the crisis in which they find themselves in.